gonna start recording, and
Okay.
maybe we can start by, maybe you can start by telling me a bit more about yourself. How long have you been in Singapore and what is the work that you do, Danny?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, well, I've been in Singapore for 6 years. I can't believe it. And my when I arrived in Singapore, I didn't plan to teach. I was a qualified meditation teacher, and I was teaching in Sydney in Australia, which is where I moved from. My kids were little, and I was involved in lots of other things. I started a charity there, which turned into quite a big organisation and attracted some funding and so on, which was pretty much my focus, and finishing my studies and in meditation teaching. And the kids were little and I was involved with their school. So I thought when we were coming here, I thought, great, I'll just, I don't know, do some yoga, play mahjong. But it didn't take very long. I think I just went to one too many expat ladies' lunches and just went, I've got to do something with some meaning here. And the kids hit the ground running, and my husband travels a lot with work. And so I actually left a lunch when I just wasn't really feeling it, and that went home, and that afternoon put in an application for a sole proprietorship, and to just start teaching meditation was the plan. And it got approved in some record time, like 4 weeks or something, which is unheard of. And I thought, oh well,
Singapore is
okay,
super fast, right?
that's
It's so easy
that's
to set
well,
up a
not
business.
always, not always when it comes to Ministry of Manpower, but I don't know, the right person opened the file, and I took that as a good sign. I thought, oh, that bodes well. And so I started teaching meditation, and it was pretty small to start with. I didn't really have a commercial impetus. It was more around meaning and purpose for me. And I had looked at the meditation scene in Singapore, and there's a lot here. It's a fantastic wellness space and spiritual space. There's just so much on offer. But really what I found when I was looking for a teacher. I left my teacher and I was very sad to leave her, and we're still in contact. We have been for many, many years, but just having access to some wisdom and to broaden and expand my staff. And I just found there seemed to be kind of something missing in the meditation scene here. There was either super duper down the spiritual spectrum, and also quite closed communities as well, where you sort of signed up, you're part of that family, you just went from layer to layer to layer, and some of them were quite expensive as well, and or there was sort of more generic mindfulness, but there wasn't sort of anything in between that matched the science and the research with an expanded, maybe that's more spiritual tilt. There wasn't something and that's my zone, right? So meditation, which I always present, it does do all that stuff like, stress relief and aid your sleep and help bring synchronicity to your nervous system and all of the beautiful benefits that come from that. But it really is just a sort of it's a doorway really into living a transformative life and living consciously, which is what a lot of my other courses are about, apart from meditation. And so I thought, okay, like there's somewhere I can fit. Like I thought it was a bit ironic, that I'd start up a meditation teaching sort of offering here in the place where a lot of the smarts in meditation originally come from, but there was space, and it was taken up, and it was and it's just grown and grown and grown and grown, like beyond what I had planned. And which is unreal. But my husband keeps telling me, he goes, well, it's your choice. Like, I'm so busy. And he goes, well, it's your call. You can do whatever you like. I went, oh yeah, I can. That's right. So that's sort of how it started, really. And then I just kept adding courses, and then started doing retreats, started doing collaborations with different, like I said, that's how I met you, with Core Collective, different spaces. And I decided not to take on a space. I didn't want the pressure of the rent to start with. And there are lots of really beautiful healing rooms and spaces here to use, and collaboration partners and so on. And then my corporate courses, I'm in on their site, and the schoolwork and talks I do, I'm in on site. So I didn't see the need to rent a permanent space. So it was better for me to be mobile. And I think that helped. And then for my women's circles and stuff, I had the use for quite a few years, about 5 years, of a beautiful room here where I live. But I could only hold the courses where all of the proceeds were given to charity. So it's not a commercial room. So I was
Mm-hmm.
limited in the use of it. But it was a lovely big room. You know, my women's circles get up to sometimes over 60 women
Wow.
that come on the new moon. Yeah, they're pretty big. And so the room that I had was great for that.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be my challenge when COVID opens up again, for the face-to-face circles, is to find a room that can hold the numbers. I haven't been able to find one yet, but I stopped looking after everything sort of locked down. So that's next on my list, is to find a good, beautiful, sort of supportive space that can hold a lot of women on a new moon doing women's business.
Why have you figured out, or how do you figure out how much of each of what you're doing, or how much of time to allocate to each of what you're doing? So from the teaching to the women's circle to the one-on-one sessions to
Yep.
all these causes that you're doing. Yeah, how do you decide to have how much
To
time to
apportion the
allocate?
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some of them are structured. So the women's circles are generally fall on the new moon. They do fall on the new moon every month, and there's an energetic reason for that. So that's once a month. And for the last 2 years, I've been holding the space and doing the awareness raising, but I've been inviting different leads in to come and lead it as well. I used to lead them myself, and occasionally I still do. So that's relatively easy, and there's a big subscribe community to that just wait for the next, so it doesn't take a lot of work to do that. And then in terms of like content for courses, like whether it's more introduction to meditation based or more energy body based or more healing work based, it was pretty organic. It really came down to what people were asking for. And if I had a few requests for something, I'd sort of sort out like what a possible outline could be and put it out to my community. This is the benefit of a community, and just saw the take up. And that's sort of how it works, And then once the content's written and the course has been run and there's been some feedback and I've honed it, then I've got a product that I can roll out whenever I get those requests. And it works out that the requests are representative of a desire. If I had sort of 10 requests to put on a healing course, once I put it out, they would fill, So it's really about responsiveness to what I was being asked for. And but having said that, I'm working on my first survey now. So I've got the range of services is so broad now
Mm-hmm.
and also the other thing is I'm trying to move most of my content online. So I need to prioritize what I do. So what are people engaging with online within my suite of offerings? And so, so my first survey is going to go out when it's ready. I don't know, couple of weeks, I think. So that's going to be that's new for me. So that's going to be really interesting to see how people engage with that, and hopefully it'll give me a bit more sort of trend data on what people are thinking and a bit more detail into what sort of content they want within the courses. So I'm getting a bit more organised now, which
No,
I wasn't
that's very
before.
good, right? Because you're actually
Yeah,
using the data. So right now you've been basing it a lot on qualitative feedback that you're getting
yeah,
from the community or the clients. But by
yeah.
pushing this out to more, you're actually getting a wider reach, and then you're
Yeah,
getting data, which is very, very valuable.
Yeah, really valuable, because
Mm-hmm.
the other thing as well is, you know, with the online stuff, more and more my client base is spreading outside of Singapore. So I've got a client base, a face-to-face client base in Australia. So about twice a year, I've gone back and held workshops in collaboration with a beautiful woman, Dagmar Feldman, who runs a yoga and Pilates studio in Sydney, and they've grown in popularity each time I've gone back. But certainly, you know, private clients and people who are enrolling in my more esoteric courses, particularly like the healing courses, and I've got another course around conscious creation in your life, and they're global communities now. So they're people from Europe and the US and different places in Asia and so on. And so really there's cultural differences as well in what people are interested in and how they engage as well with the online stuff. And that's what I'm trying to mine now. And also interest in what kind of content people want from me. So I'm a big writer, and I'm also asking about that, like what inspires you, what kind of topics do you want to hear more about, what sort of research do you want to hear more about in all of the sort of, I guess, the spiritual spectrum, you know. And yeah, so that's the plan. And then for me, it'll help me prioritize what I do, because there's only me. I work with collaboration partners on the meditation recordings, for example, and also optimizing my website. And I've got a fantastic web designer in Australia and a fantastic SEO advisor also in Australia as well. But in terms of content and offering, it's just me. You know, that's my brand now. It's my name
Mm-hmm.
too. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can only do one thing at a time. So that's what I'm hoping to get some smarts on.
And I think your name is very synonymous in the expat community, especially ladies, right? You mentioned Danny, they say, hey, yeah, you know, the meditation or Reiki teacher or Reiki master. So how would you define your community? Are they your clients? You know, are they, so when you conduct healing courses, is it
Yep.
actually for people to equip themselves to heal themselves, or to equip themselves to heal
Yeah.
others? Mm,
Yeah, both. Yeah.
mm,
So with the intuitive healing, I basically teach what I do in the private sessions. So it's a combination of traditional Usui Reiki and then uh, other exercises and frameworks to open up your ability to intuitively read a client. And so there are people who are sort of private people, men and women, not just women. More women in the healing. More women certainly are drawn to the healing modality that I teach, and locals as well. So not just
mm-hmm,
expats, but weighted towards expats. But what I'm finding more and more, which I'm finding super exciting, is the people that are coming in are already in service. So I've got like psychologists, I've got corporate coaches, I've got
mm,
HR professionals in there. There are psychotherapists, teachers.
mm-hmm.
So they're people and other healers that have got another healing modality. So they're people who are already, they're helping other people in their offering, but they want to deepen it. Like they're adding to their toolbox so they can deepen their offering. And that's really exciting to me, especially the people who are schooled and practiced in Western modalities too, like psychology and so on. And they're going for the Usui Reiki, which is which you know is was formulated by Master Usui in Japan, but it's based on much older Taoist energy and medicine practices. So it's got a beautiful Eastern flavour to it, and an origin really. And so there's this whole East meets West thing going on in the intuitive healing, which is beautiful. The meditation, the demographic is. I should look at it properly, but I'd say it's probably 30, 70% gender. So
Mm-hmm.
30% men, 70% women. More men are signing into the online, which is interesting because it's self-guided. You haven't got the circle and the sharing. All of my course groups are connected on private Facebook groups. That's where the connection happens.
Right, right, okay.
And probably about the same sort of local to expat mix as well. Probably 30-70 local to expat mix in the meditation courses. Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the demographic changes as more content goes online. It's more accessible, it's self-guided, it's a little less confronting, I guess, for people who aren't used to being in circle and being vulnerable and sharing how they feel and how what the practices are revealing for them personally and so on. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. It'll be really interesting. I'm really just starting on the online journey. You know, thanks to COVID. COVID gave me a really good kick in
Yeah,
the pants.
yeah, COVID has been the catalyst for, you know, everyone
Yeah,
going online and discovering that things can actually be working very, very efficiently on
yeah,
online space,
yeah,
right? Yeah. You mentioned earlier that the community has sort of like grown organically, right, since you started what
yeah,
you're doing. Um, are you able to share a little bit more about this organic growth, and
yeah, yeah.
how did you see it, or how do you assess it?
So a couple of factors. What's awesome about Singapore is the word of mouth factor, you know, and it's great in a few ways. So I do no paid marketing. Um, or most of my referrals into private sessions, nearly all of them are word of mouth, and that's good in the sense that it really keeps you sort of true to your offering and really focused on giving every single person a fantastic experience, you know. And I think it's really important within the wellness area where I dwell, because it's not regulated. So you know, it's referral and your friends' opinions and your colleagues' opinions are really important, because you know, there are only two energy healers in the world who I would personally go and see, because you want to make sure the person's really solid, they know what they're doing, they've got the right process around them, and they themselves are, you know, they've got their integrity and they're in service, you know, because there's some fantastic healers out there, but there's also a lot of other people out there that I wouldn't recommend people go and see. So it's word of mouth has been a big one. And then and both the courses and the private sessions. And then for me, it was getting really organised on capturing that community as well. And so, you know, I got really busy on MailChimp, and it's automated now, which is even better. So anyone who books into a course or books into a private session will go onto my list, and then I use the list with content, inspiring content, heads up on what's new coming out, and the survey now. So and then I use the sign-ups to the list as incentives for offers and things. So for example, I'm doing this really cool webinar series with Willow Mattress here in Singapore and
Oh yes,
Expat Live
I
in
saw that
Singapore.
about
Yeah, on
dream.
Dreams.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really
that's
cool. Yeah,
yes.
we did one and it was booked out and it was really well received, and we had like a gazillion questions, and so we decided to do a series. And so what I you know, what's really important for me is growing my list, because that's how I can then get my online content out. And so when you've got a list that you're managing well, you can say, you know, next 20 people who sign up to the list, I'll give you a 10% code off anything you buy or book on the website. So you can start to sort of use it really as a tool and as an incentivizer for people to explore your content or book in a session with you or whatever. So that's an example of that. So just and then I think it's all about content, you know, like people people like to feel like they belong to a like-minded community. People like to feel that they're heard. People like to feel an alignment with values, you know. So my content, I talk about the art of meditation, the art of healing, but I also share people's experiences with their permission, of course. And I share a lot of my own philosophy and my own perspective. And that people like that, you know, that you like to feel that you're aligned with something, and also maybe you get a different tilt on a perspective, or the way you viewed meditation, or the way you viewed personal healing, or the way you viewed creativity, and so inspiring content's really kind of key as well, and it's what people respond to the most with the articles and things that I write. Yeah, so belonging and inspiration are big ones. So I would say they're probably, in terms of growing a list, growing a community. I say list, but the list is really just the names in the community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I was worried with isolation and COVID how community would translate online. Like, because a big component of what I was doing was having these beautiful group experiences, like the
Mm-hmm.
New Moon Lodges and, you know, the courses, the full courses for 20 or 25 people. And they loved it, coming together everywhere. I loved it, you know, welcoming people in and everyone sharing their experience and so on. But the translation seems to be okay. I know as soon as I open up circles again, they'll be booked. But um, what I've done is I've supplemented the online courses with private Facebook communities where people can, and I've got a lot of guidelines around that, you know, the sanctity of the circle, which is what I would do in a face-to-face circle as well. There's respecting people's feedback, not advising, standing witness, sharing your own relevant experience, all of that kind of stuff. And they're active, you know, which is really good to see. All of the course online Facebook groups that are linked to the course are active, and people are sharing, and it's a lot of vibrant activity, which keeps me pretty busy, but I love it. I love to see people interacting and supporting each other and offering different alternatives and tools and other stuff that they're reading and all that kind of stuff. So people do need some form of connection for sure. And at the moment, you know, a private Facebook group seem to work pretty well for my stuff.
Would you say that, you know, all of these happen by trial and error, or, you know, or do you actually have like a fixed, like, okay, this is my strategy, this is my plan, I'm gonna do plan A first, if it doesn't work I go plan B, or, you know, was it okay, let's go with the flow, you know, and see how things go, as I get busier I'm going to decide according to whatever happens?
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I've got a corporate background,
Mm-hmm.
so my instinct is pretty organized. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I do every year. You know, at the end of every year, I've got some land in the Blue Mountains in Australia, and I go back there by myself. My family joins me for Christmas and stuff, but I go back there and I go into a spiritual process there where I look at the year, I look at the interaction, I look at what theming has happened in my community. I'm very protective of my community. I'm a real mother hen of my community as well, and I do a lot of energy work for the community itself too. Like I hold it in energy, and then I do what's called visioning, which is a form of it's a shamanic practice where I go into shamanic journeying and I start to vision what the year ahead is going to look like. And then I translate that into a business plan. So it's
Mm.
kind of like a woo-woo form of business planning. And it's interesting because it's really like, you know, in January when I was doing my visioning for 2020 and we didn't know about COVID, um, there was a lot of strong impulse to get over my tech phobe, you know, find people and collaborators that could assist, and a big impetus to start to focus stuff online. And I'd always sort of had it as a plan, but even in January, I knew that that was going to be one of the biggest themes for this year, and it has, you know, it has been. And in January, interestingly, I met up with the brilliant musician I'm working with, Sam Jewell, who's helping me do my guided meditation recordings for the courses online. And we laid down like the tracks for the first course in January when we didn't need to, but we thought, oh, we've got a few days, why don't we just do it? thank God, because I wouldn't have been able to get back and see him until, who knows, I still don't know. But we've worked out a way we can do that remotely now, which is great. So I've got my kit here in the corner of a room, and I know how to record. I've got the right kit to record a good quality voice, and then he puts it together with his sounds and stuff, and then we work really well remotely. But I had a set laid down early, so I do plan, Alex, and now I'm with the survey, and I want to do those regularly, and I really do listen to feedback people give me, and I want to get a bit more responsive with my planning now to the need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to
Mm-hmm.
what's going to support people the most. Yeah, so moving into the world of actually asking.
Yeah, and that's where your survey, right, which is going out to your community and
Yeah,
listeners, gonna come in really handy. Yeah, and
yeah,
any challenges, or roadblocks that you encountered along the way? It's been 5 years, right?
yeah,
Be able to share a bit more on that.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so well, certainly the biggest the biggest challenge, I guess, for me has been this my teenager trying to sneak through. They've got their online classes at home this week. They're alternating. Um, so, a big one for me recently has been getting over my tech phobe. Like I'm pretty simple in that regard, and even just to master Zoom was a big step for me. I mean, I know you millennials, you guys have just grown up with it, but for the oldies like me, but it's really just getting on it, doing it, learning that it's really easy, and it's keeping a bit playful with it. So that's one thing. So that's been a big one for me, and I'm really confident with it now. Like, I know if um, one of the ladies in one of my courses, they're doing another round of content. So there's one course that I do where you come in, you learn how to do it, and then the community has stayed in there for years, and they reuse the process and they coordinate together, which is beautiful. And she's suggesting a new platform which is sort of like Zoom, except it's called Circles, where you appear on the screen and you come in and out like a sort of like a circle, like a campfire circle, which is gorgeous for the content.
Mm-hmm.
And that's new for me, and but we'll just give it a go. If it doesn't work, we can do something else. And I'm way better at asking now, way better at going, someone who knows how to do this, tell me how to do this, so that's been one, has been tech phobe. So it hasn't been an issue with the tech, it's been me being afraid of it and therefore maybe swerving it for too long. That's been one. Another one too is actually delegating. So, I made a commitment when I started my business that I would fund the expansion of my business from its proceeds. So I wouldn't borrow money, I wouldn't dip into family money or savings. So it's been very organic. And so right at the beginning, to get some basic website done, basic photography done, I would barter meditation coaching with people who had those skills. And then eventually, the revenues started to come in, and I still hold to that. So I still fund my website development, my SEO stuff and marketing strategy advice, my music. They're the three main collaborators that I work with. I fund it entirely from the proceeds of the business. And but there was that tipping point, which is really difficult for startups, where you go, it's a big investment if your revenue hasn't quite kicked in, but that it's an important step that you've got to do to be able to expand your reach and reach more people and help more people and so on. So I think I really sort of kicked into that, I'd say, I don't know, probably about 3 years ago. I realised it's so worth it. It's so worth just going, okay, the revenue, it's only just going to cover this. There's not going to be a lot of change, but I'm going to engage some professionals now that know what they're doing and who can help me maximize all the work I'm doing. Like, you write all this content and stuff, and if you're not really clear on how to maximize that and how to make sure people are finding it and reading it, it's a bit of a wasted effort. So that would be another one, is just making the call to actually invest in the smarts. And that's been worth it for me. And I've learned a lot too from it. Like I've learned from actually engaging professional people in the back end. I always, as well, I really, when I know that I need some help on something, I really sort of put out the call spiritually for someone to come in who's really aligned with me, you know. And like you and I as well, it's been a really beautiful, organic, lovely connection straight away. And even though we haven't really done a lot of work together, but we've been connected, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I love to roll. I love to roll with people who are similar in vibration, you know, have got a really nice service ethic. Like they really want to help people, and are integrous, and are open to connection, and open to flow and expansion. And these are the people that I've met and that I've engaged. I love them. Like they're a bit like a family too, and we have a lot of fun. You know, our meetings are fun. Our creative space is juicy and vibrant, you know, because we really dig each other. And that's really important for me, is that it's fun, you know, and it's creative, and it inspires me. You know, I need that kind of vibe with what I do. And I think it plays out in your offering. I think people sense it, you know, and they want to belong to that too. So that would be another one. So alignment with the kind of vibe and type of people, investing in the right people, getting over my tech phobe. And then energetically, and you know that I do this as well, a really, really important factor, which I've always had, is to give to. So I've got a really principled goodwill aspect to my business, and I give a really big chunk of revenue away every month to a cause. It's usually around enabling underprivileged women and children, and then every May as well, I adopt endangered animals and plant trees. So every May, it's about the environment. I've always done that, and that achieves a couple of things. Energetically, it's highly magnetic, like, so it generates flow, and there's a collective benefit to people who are coming in to learn how to meditate. Know that a portion of what they're paying me to learn how to meditate is helping a lot of other people, and that really builds community. People align with that. They love the idea of that. They're very, very happy, and I communicate with them, you know, where the money's going, and as much as possible, you know, what good they've done by learning how to look after themselves and expand their inner practice. Look what you've done in the world, you know. So and also energetically, it's really good, you know, like abundance and revenue. A lot of people think these are things that need to be pulled in and held onto and amassed, but they're like a river, and a river only flows if it's going somewhere. So that's a really important energetic principle that I live by, and I work by as well. So I would say having some kind of altruistic focus in your business as well is super important. And I volunteer my time too. We haven't been able to get together with the kids and blessings in a bag since lockdown, but I do that as well. So it doesn't matter how you do it if you haven't got a revenue, but if you've got time and if you've got a skill, volunteering that, it has the same effect, in my view.
Very, very, very useful tips and insights, right? Positivity begets positivity, right? And
Totally.
yeah, actually, a lot of businesses. I mean, I love the altruistic part of where or how you set up to run your practice. But how then? How do you draw this distinction or authenticity between somebody who says, okay, I should focus on promoting that I give 10% of whatever that I earn to charity, or because it's gonna get me more business.
Yeah.
You get what I mean, right? So it's like instead of it coming internally from the heart on wanting to do good, the motivation is slightly different, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, I think I can't speak for other people, but you know, the Buddha and I'm not going to say it exactly a cool way that the Buddha said it, but you know, when he was talking about motivation for learning meditation, and one of his disciples asked him, and he said, it doesn't really matter how you start. It doesn't matter if you know what your motivation is to start your meditation and your introspection, because once you start, that process will sort out your motivation. Do you see what I mean?
I
So,
like that.
but
Yeah.
yeah, and it
Brilliant
does. You
answer.
know, like
Yeah.
I don't need to give the money away. You know, and I don't have to, but for me, it's really important. You know, I've got a good life. I earn good money. It's important to me personally to give it away, and to give some of it away. I don't splash it out there. I
Mm.
definitely inform. There's a page which I don't promote on my website, but I do inform the people who have come and given money. And I do hold a lot of things that all proceeds goes for the new moon lodges and the Monday meditation drop-ins that I'm doing via Zoom. I don't take any money from that. So I do that, and people know that every single cent of what they put in the pot for those goes to the monthly cause. And then in addition to that, I take a chunk of my revenue and give that away as well. So I just think it's really important. Like if I was struggling and you know, the priority for the money should be going to my children or my family or something, I'd send the money there. But I'm not. I've got a
Mm-hmm.
good life, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important. Now, the fact that I know that it's also generating abundance and flow, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. You know, I think that's I guess I teach abundance to people, so I'm role modeling how it goes, and
Mm.
it works that way.
From a business perspective, right? How do you
Yep.
practice proper auditing of such procedures? So that, I mean, if somebody were already doing it or are keen on adopting a similar sort of practice, what's a good way to audit stuff like that or practices like that?
What do you mean audit?
That means that, I mean,
Charitable.
yeah, so if let's say the different causes that you do, you're donating 100% of it to charity, right? And because your business is a registered entity,
Yep.
you don't lock in the revenue and it just goes. So what is the administrative process of documenting money that you are donating, whether it's 50% off, 20% off, or 100% off to
Oh, I see. Yeah.
respected
Okay.
charities
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
causes? Mm.
Um, so I put it through my bookkeeping system. So
Mm.
I'm on Zero. So
Mm.
any donations I make go into the bookkeeping, and therefore then go into the company accounts.
Mm.
And I get the, you know, the tax receipts from the charities and stuff. I don't always give to registered charities though. Like
Mm.
um, there sometimes, you know, people who are in a really tight bind, they might be a client or something, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them a forever interest-free loan or something. So I maintain a discretion around it, which I think is my right.
Of course,
But
sure.
if I'm,
Yeah.
yeah, but I absolutely, it goes through the bookkeeping, and it
Mm.
goes into the tax returns and that kind of stuff, and I feed back to my community on where it's gone. Do I say how much? I don't think I say how much is
You
given.
don't need, I don't think you need to, right? I mean, it's
I don't think
purely up
so.
to you on how
Yeah,
you communicate it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was
So I
just out of
guess,
interest, yeah, for
yeah,
me to know on a business
yeah,
perspective. Yeah.
yeah. I definitely, yeah, I put it through the books officially. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how then would you measure your community? So you talked about the list, right? So is it
Yeah, the
the
list.
larger the list is a bigger success on the community, or is it
Yep.
a vibration sort of thing, an energy sort of thing, or the number
Yeah,
of collaborations or partnerships? How do you personally
yeah,
measure the size of your community? Mm.
yeah. Well, I think it's probably a bit of all of that. I mean, obviously, what the list gives you, the list is a number, right? It gives you how many people are attracted and how many people are willing to give you their email because they like what you're giving them. So that's good. Another measure of community would be the engagement and vibrancy of the exchange in the courses and things. So you know, if people are engaged and they're into it and they love sharing and they love commenting on other people and that kind of stuff, that's definitely a marker of the health of the community. Another one would be, I guess, people who feel aligned with it enough that they would recommend it to their friends. So recommendations, I think, are a really good measure of your community. Like if they're kind of, they feel safe enough and solid enough with you that they're happy to bring in family members and recommend you to other people. I think that's a good measure for sure. You know, the collaboration partners, you know, that's, I mean, it's fantastic when you get a lot of people going, oh, can you run this series for us? Or can you come and speak here? But it's hard to know, you know, if once you've got a pretty thriving community, you become a bit of an attractive unit, right? Because people want to build their lists.
Mm-hmm.
People want to,
That's true. That's true.
they want to
Yes.
get their names out there, you
Yes.
know? So, but it is nice when that actually flips, where people start coming to you because of your community, and then you can choose. You can sort of go, oh, that's not really aligned with what I stand for, or that is, or whatever. You know, that's a nice signal that you're actually getting somewhere. So collaboration partners for sure. Like, you know, of course, if you're getting invited to do talks or, you know, host stuff online, or you're getting invited for interviews like this and that kind of stuff, then you know that you're going pretty well if people are asking you for your opinion. So some of it's quantitative and some of it's qualitative. Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's a bit of all of that.
And if someone were a self-starter, wanting to do something on their own, or start a business, what sort of tips would you give, or any blind spots that they should look out for, specific
Yeah.
to building community?
Specific to building community,
Mm,
okay. Well, the first thing is, and I'm only speaking from my experience,
of
I
course,
guess, is that,
yes.
you know, don't worry about starting small. So, you know, like we were talking about the new moon lodges, but any of my courses, like when I first started here in Singapore, you know, there 2 people had come,
Mm,
sometimes 1, you know, and I always had the view that um, I just want them to have a fantastic experience, you know, and so I wasn't really too worried that, and it grows so quickly. So if focus on the quality of your community's experience, that would be the first one. If your community is 2 people, it will become 2,000 people really quickly, because especially in this market, because a lot of it is word of mouth.
mm-hmm,
So that'd be the first one. Stay really playful. So I see a lot of people in the wellness industry, and especially in my end of it, you know, which is sort of meditation in a practice, and they're so serious. Like they're not they're not really exhibiting what an inner practice gives you, which is sort of joy and a sort of like a kind of joie de vivre and good health and all of that kind of stuff. So stay playful and stay flexible, and so you can move and try different things. That would be another tip for any people starting out. I think content is still king. You know, I mean, of course, you know that because you're a content king yourself. But the quality of your content, and really writing and producing content which is your authentic, true voice. You know, so I can tell when I'm reading stuff from people who aren't really vibing with what they're talking about. I can tell there isn't a voltage in their words. You know, I can tell they're cut and paste stuff, and it's not their authentic voice. So I think stay really aligned with authentically what you believe in to be true, even if you and only 2 other people believe in the same thing, because there's a voltage then that comes into your comms and into your offering, which other people will be able to recognize more readily. And then I would also say in the wellness space too that you really do need to practice what you preach. You know, you've got to, especially in meditation and stuff. Like you can't just read a book and go, I'm going to be a meditation teacher. And there's a few people out there that do that. You know, because the quality of your teaching has to come from personal experience, because that's the only way you can really explain it properly to people, is from a subjective felt knowing of what it is and what it's like to navigate inner terrain and so on. And so you got to do it and know it to teach it well. You know, I would say that's really really important too. Yeah.
Amazing. Very, very useful and very, very helpful. Yeah. And just off tangent to the community talk, right? You mentioned
Yeah.
there are certain practitioners or individuals out there that might not be so what's the word for us to use, legit, right? In the so
Yep.
what are the red flags that somebody needs to be looking out for if, let's say, they were to visit a meditation teacher or a Reiki master? Yeah, what are the sort of red flags that
Yep.
we should be looking out for?
Yep. Okay. So because like I said, it's not regulated, you know, so and it will be, and soon. You know, there are some regulatory bodies for energy healing and Reiki, but there are no local Singapore ones. And so what some clients do with me if they're new to me, so they may, and I really respect this as well, if they want to book in a private session, or if they're interested in one of my courses and they're really drawn to the course outline, is they'll ask to speak with one of my, or a couple of my other clients, or a couple of my other course participants. And of course I get other clients or participants' permission, and with their permission, I very happily hook them up. So I think that's a good way to do it. So if you're looking for an energy healer or a teacher in the spiritual arts, is to ask to speak to some of their other clients. I think it's good to have a look at their content and really feel into it, and speak with them too. Like get on a call or get on a chat like this, and actually don't be afraid to ask questions, you know, and uh, look at if they're members of associations. I think that's actually really important, particularly for meditation teaching. So you know, I'm a member of 2 associations, and they're really rigorous. Like they're very rigorous to become a member in terms of, you know, how many years of teaching you've done, the quality of your program development, all of that kind of stuff. So association membership would be one that I would look at as well. And you know, it really comes down to your gut feel, especially with this kind of work, with energy work, you know. And I say to people, if it just feels a bit off, or you're not fully vibing with the person, go and find someone else. You know, there's gazillions out there. Really trust your instinct, because you know, a few of my clients in private sessions, not loads, but several, have come to me for help because they've had a bad experience with an
Mm,
energy healer.
mm,
And they've come for a bit of a cleanup job, you know, because they haven't been left well, or they haven't been supported very well after the sessions as well. So it's you're really exposing yourself to the smarts and the experience and the energy of the energy healer, and also of a teacher, of a spiritual teacher as well. So I do those things. Yeah, I speak to them directly. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If it seems a bit closed and a bit culty, like a bit club only, I'd question that.
mm.
Um, and that's my personal feeling. And also if it's really extortionate on the money too, like I don't give my stuff away, I charge for my time. And but there are some organizations that charge a lot, like, you know, and it's kind of where you're really trading off what you could be spending your hard-earned money on to be part of this community and so on. And I'd question that too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, very, very useful. And um, there was a question that came up. Yeah, it slipped my mind suddenly. It was to do with the Oh yeah. Would it be a case of, oh, but this fella worked for me, maybe he didn't work for you? Could it be a case of something like that? Or should it be universal that this is the vibe, it should work for everybody, that sort of thing?
Well, I, I guess there's always an element of that. Um, but I, if you're a healer and a spiritual mentor and a teacher, part of your offering is to adapt your
Mm,
language and your offering to be able to support whoever asks for help.
mm,
So I'm not formulaic. Like, the mentoring sessions are as varied as anything during the day, or the energy sessions. Like, and I get asked this one a lot too with the energy healing work. It's like people will say, well, will I feel it? Because I've had energy sessions before, but I didn't feel anything. And the practitioner said, oh, it was working on my higher self. And so I wouldn't feel it. And I'm like, no, it's an energy session. Like, so it's running vital life force through your system. You should feel something. If you don't feel it, I'd question the practitioner.
mm.
You know, everyone who books in with me feels it. So yeah, I guess there's an element that, but I would put that more down to, rather than my modality either fits or doesn't fit someone, as to either I haven't supported them well enough if they
Right.
haven't got anything out of it, or they haven't been open to being real about their healing process. That
Right.
it's just not, they're not ready for it yet, or whatever. And and that happens. And I've said to people, that's cool, just park it. And when you're ready, you can come back, not very often though.
Okay. Yeah. Eh,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, we've come to the end of the session. It's been
Yeah.
1 hour already. Any
Yeah.
last words, you'd like to say?
Um, I just, all I want to say is thank you
Oh,
to,
thank you.
giving me, allowing me some voice in your program. I love what you're doing as well. And I think
Thank
it's
you.
important,
Thank you.
it's a pretty crowded space, the wellness space. And also there's a lot of really gorgeous practitioners that are really trying to get in and get established, and that kind of thing. And so I think it's fantastic that you're supporting them with talking to the oldies, maybe the more seasoned ones, and sharing the smarts around. I think that's good, Alex. So
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much. Yeah, I will take a while to transcribe this, and
That's cool.
probably maybe three weeks, or maybe even 4 weeks,
Yeah,
maybe less. Let's see. And then
that's
we'll
cool.
be in touch, right?
Okay.
Thank you so much for the time. If you need anything, please feel free to contact me. Let me know. I'm very
Yeah, I always do.
uh, and thank you so much. You have a good
Thanks, Alex.
week ahead.
You too, honey, and enjoy that time with that beautiful little girl of yours. I
I
love the
will.
photos. Yeah, she's
Thank you.
gorgeous.
She's
Okay,
getting more
Alex.
and more terrible. The terrible two is coming. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I
That's
can't
good. That's
imagine.
good. That means she's got spirit. That's
Yeah,
good.
she's
You
she's
want that
she's
rather than the
she's got
opposite.
she's got quite a bit of zest in her. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, I can see.
good. Okay, take care, Danny. See you,
Okay.
dear. All
Thanks,
right.
Alex.
Thank you. Bye bye. Hey,
Bye.
oh wait, we need to take a picture.
Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Come, let me take a screenshot. Okay. Uh,
what do you want us to do?
yeah, I think we
Nothing.
will just wave maybe. So you can wave your. I'm gonna put this hand up. Yeah, that's good. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, gonna send it to you. Thanks, Danny.
Okay.
You take
Thanks,
care.
darling.